woman, Wenyi's amazing emotional range, the pathos, the quiet moments, the taking one step and realizing it's a step too far and stepping back. You know, there's in all of world culture, this is one of the great moments in the history of theater, dance, and music. This scene between these two women, and the nuances, the detail of it, are just astonishing. But you also need a great performer at this level. The other thing I would just say is Balanchine, when George Balanchine brought the Russian Imperial Ballet tradition to America and made it American, he of course took off all that Russian Imperial costume and he put the New York City Ballet in t-shirts and black tights. And I love your Levi's in that scene. They're great. Now, should we do one more eventually? Okay, good. Yes, there's maybe one more scene eventually. That would be all right. One of the important things about the Kunshu is, again, it's not just a movement vocabulary. It needs an artist to give it the nuance, the range of tenderness, the kind of little moments of surprise. And at the same time, you're seeing the entire history of Chinese line. You can see all of Chinese drawing, you can see all the calligraphy, you can see all the landscape paintings in every one of these shapes. And that's what gives you those amazing bridges in the garden out here, right? That no line is just a straight line. Every line is interrupted, every line has a sudden new window. Everything is about the interrupted dream. A vista that suddenly surprises you by opening into a future you hadn't anticipated. And that sense of surprise that is built into the Suzhou garden, that sense of a mountain is miniature. That is to say, the life of one girl is all of China. That, in fact, you are in yourself. You're holding the universe. And these gardens are about understanding your own powers and understanding them together with nature. You saw every one of those movements come from flowers, come from beautiful tree shapes. And it's understanding that the trees are people. Lumombe, the plum blossom or apricot blossom, depending on how you translate it, it's not an accident that the history of Chinese art is the history of plum blossoms, and paintings of plum blossoms, and poems about plum blossoms or apricot blossoms. Because, of course, the plum blossom is the blossom that blooms first in February, when it's inconvenient. To say this winter will not last forever. And February, when you think this winter will last forever, someone has to say, there will be spring. There will be a thaw. This regime can't last forever. Someone has to courageously blossom early to announce that winter will not last forever. And as you know, in the history of plum blossoms, they pay with their lives, because a late February frost or early March frost destroys them. And so the image of the plum blossom in Chinese culture is also an image of courageous human beings who offer their lives for something they will not live to see. To come to announce that there will be change and that there will be a different future. And so the idea of Lumombe being the plum blossom is not just a tree. It's a human being who will endure and through strength and generosity live to introduce a new era when, as in everything on earth, the season must change. So her death at the foot of this tree is very poignant because, of course, she's committing her heart and everything in it to a future, and the tree is right there and recognizes it, and of course draws strength. It does ultimately arrive at the place where his love is able to bring her back out of the ground. And so one of the great resurrection scenes, I think, in all of Rome, when she comes back. But I'm wondering, Wenyi, would you be willing to show us a little of that death scene? Just a little. You know, I have to say, we should wrap this up because I know we're going long, but I just want to say, this woman, there's no such thing as long, but one of the university gigs that we did is we worked on Peony Pavilion at Princeton University with Toni Morrison in her atelier. And one of the most moving things was to be with Toni Morrison, the great African-American writer about ghosts, and have her teach a great Ming Dynasty work of Chinese literature about ghosts. And to have, again, across cultures, people exchange. And I didn't know what this death scene was like. And one day in the middle of a student workshop, I said to Wenyi, what is that death scene like? And she showed us. And I will not forget that day. That was an incredible day. And the death scene has built into it not an end, but the opposite: courage, beauty, power, determination, and vision. Want to try to read it?
Yes, I think you should read it.
You know what? Let me just read you the text. Oh, Susan, you found it for me once, right? Oh no! Oh God! There it is.
This is my book.
Okay, let me just read you what she's saying. I am so drawn to this flowering apricot, I should count it a great good fortune to be buried here beside it when I die. My heart is strangely drawn to this apricot's side. Just as we please ourselves, which flower or herb we most love. Could we only live or die at will, then who would moan for bitter pain? Let me commit my fragrant spirit, though rains be dank and drear, to keep company with this apricot's roots. And again, the image of regeneration of a garden, the human compost that literally makes the next generation possible. That literally this tree is growing from what? And that's the human gesture.